what drew you to Buddhism? Was it there was
Mm-hmm.
more space for you to be Rod in Buddhism?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so much that drew me there. What drew me basically was the promise of liberation. You know, that was the first thing. And then secondly, Buddhism began to answer every single question that couldn't get answered anywhere else.
Give me an
You know,
example.
just about the mind, just about emotions and thoughts. Like I just felt trapped by thoughts and emotions. I felt enslaved to my mental health and the ways in which I struggle with my mental health. I felt enslaved to my anger. I felt enslaved to my depression and sadness and hopelessness, and it was deeply depleting. And so when, this idea of like, well, you can meditate, was presented at first, like I didn't really take it seriously. And then I really started taking the practice seriously and began to get this kind of like relief. It's like, oh, like I actually have agency over all this stuff, and that was like, that changed my life. I mean, I
Mm.
don't want to sound like a born again Christian, but like, I gave my life
No, we don't
to,
mind. Go
to the
ahead.
practice. Like I was just like, finally, there's something that I can trust, something that's not lying to me, something that's not telling me, well, you'll feel better after you die and go to heaven.
Right.
And quite honestly, I was like, why do white people get to have a good time and I don't? In this life, that
Hey.
was it.
Yeah.
I want to be free right now. I want to experience heaven right now. And then Buddhism was like, okay, do it. Here are the practices. You just have to work. It's not about necessarily praying and doing all this stuff. It's like, if you watch your mind, you will begin to experience liberation from the material of your mind. And it was absolutely true. You know,
Mm.
it was medicine. It was the medicine that I'd been looking for my whole life. And I'd been like, I realized I was a Buddhist my whole life because growing up in church, I just had these questions. Like a lot of stuff didn't make sense, and
Mm.
I felt like, and theology, and this is my relationship with theology is that like theology has a tendency to make a lot of excuses about things that it can't really explain.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know like faith is used as this really convenient thing to kind of cover over these gaps. Like you just need to have faith, and that
Mm.
wasn't enough for me. Yes, I am a person of faith, right? I am a devout person, a faithful person, but that faith has come with a lot of evidence and data that's helped me to develop faith.
And is
You
some of
know?
that evidence and that data internal,
Yes.
right? It's a kind of self aggregating data.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like there's this saying that comes out of Zen Buddhism, which is that if you fall over the edge, if you jump off the edge, the net will catch you. And so that's really like us teaching about faith. If you take this step, you're going to be caught. And initially that was like the challenge. It was like, just do this and you will see something.
Right.
So I had to like start sitting and watching my mind, doing these exercises, and then I began to see that I was being caught, and
Mm.
that deepened my faith. And for me, Buddhism is like a science too. It's like, okay, here's the science of the mind. It's like, this is psychology, and it kept feeding me over and over again, and it helped me to move into these places where I could actually start healing the trauma of being Black, the trauma of growing up in church through this path. And that was such, to give me back the church and to give me God back in a way that was liberatory and freeing
Wow. Yeah.
was such a special gift for me.
Mm. It's like that reconciliation.
Yeah.
I have this conversation a lot, I think,
Mm-hmm.
not just on the show, but in my personal
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great conversation with Reverend G.D. McCauley, who's
Mm-hmm.
queer Black theologian, the House of
Mhm.
Rainbow. And we have this kind of very explicit conversation about reconciliation of sexuality and faith within the
Yeah.
Christian tradition.
Mhm.
And actually, what you're offering here is a reconciliation directly with a higher power,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily need to happen within the churches or the spaces in which we grew up.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes it's so difficult to heal in the spaces that we've been hurt,
Mm.
and it really takes us leaving. I had to leave the South, I had to leave the church to figure out exactly what happened.
And when you left, did you know that you were leaving for that reason? Or
Yeah.
like, did you name it to yourself?
Oh yeah, I was so tired.
Right.
I was I had to get the hell out of there. And my mother even just, she kind of fed that back to me. She was like, yeah, there's nothing else left for you here.
Right.
Like you have to leave here to become who you need to become, and it's taken, moving out of the South, it's like, okay, it's time for me to go into another culture. And that just gave me this intense, direct experience about, okay, what was it? When my culture becomes alien, then my culture becomes a subject that I can study.